what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw up a slide that has all of the wonderful panelists here, myself included, LinkedIn QR code. I highly recommend you reach out and connect with everybody. Jessica, Yuji, Shamil, these are people who are really changing the game. The reason why we brought the three of you to this moment is because most of you have either founded your own organizations, you've had to grow organizations, you've had to do the hard stuff that we're talking about. So if you're in the audience, do not sleep on this opportunity to connect with them. Send them a message. Hey, I loved what you said about XYZ. That stuff goes a long way. And plus, for us, the three of them are very busy. So I want to make sure they feel like it's worth their time too. So thank you so much. I see a lot of LinkedIn's in the chat. We can go ahead and get this kicked off. I want to do a quick round of introductions. Most of these people do not need one, but I'm going to do it anyway. Um, my name is Chris Mabry. I'm the head of community here at Iris. I am ex Presales Collective, been around the solution engineering world for a while. Most of you know me. I'd like to welcome Jessica from Ashby. Jessica, do you want to just give us a second? What do you do there at Ashby?
Yeah, I lead our global solutions org, so solutions engineers in EMEA and North America. Right now, we have a mighty team of six, but we're going to double that this year. So I'm actively hiring. Roles are posted. Cannot hire fast enough. But yeah, lead the entire practice, setting up a lot of operational process things, metrics that really drive our organization forward in the way that we support the company's priorities.
All right, you heard it here. You heard it here first. Actively doubling her team. Okay. So if you're in the market, please reach out to Jessica. I would give an incredible recommendation too, because I've gotten to know Jessica a little bit. She's running an incredible team. Shamil, I'm going to bounce it over to you, man.
For sure, Shamil Turner. I am now leading the global team for technical account managers at Figma. I had the pleasure 5 years ago of being the founding solutions consultant at Figma, and I was able to hire a team of 20 globally. And they're asking me to build this new function focused on post sales surrounding our platform. So I'm having a lot of fun. We are hiring on both ends. If you speak French and you're deep into deployment, strategies and advisory, please reach out to me directly. If you are a solutions consultant and you are looking for an awesome gig with a lot of ceiling, not, I wouldn't say a lot ceiling, a short, tall ceiling, and a lot of opportunity, please reach out to Colin Trent. You'll find him on LinkedIn, Michael Caviglia, and Lauren Kearney. They're actively hiring in the US.
There you go. Okay, that's another amazing organization hiring. Yuji, bat it over to you, then we'll get into it.
Thanks, Chris. Welcome, everybody. My name is Yuji Higashi. I'm a co-founder of Better Career. Previously, I co-founded Presales Collective and also prior to that, led a global pre-sales team. Currently at Better Career, we do coaching, advisory, and recruiting for SEs and within the SE function. So we're also hiring, but just for our the clients that we recruit for. We also have the unique perspective that we get to sit across the table from many other SE orgs. So we get to see a lot of different patterns in what different metrics different teams track and which metrics correlate to success. So I'm excited to get into the topic today.
Man, so this is not a hiring webinar, but it's turned into one. So
Everybody's
this is
hiring.
incredible. And I've been watching a lot of the market lately and kind of digging into podcasts and insights and stuff. And I do think this is the year where orgs who have made it through this really tough patch since COVID are now in that growth state. So I'm thrilled. I love the idea of you guys growing. I want to help all three of you get incredible talent too. So um, this topic today we're covering is all about measurement and impact. And this has been something that like since you started Pre-Sales Collective, we've been like, how do you measure the impact of pre-sales? How do you make sure that the CROs know what we're doing and how we're driving go-to-market? A lot of the time, it feels like we're the ones with our backpack on carrying go-to-market, but we have a hard time kind of creating the right story and ensuring the rest of the org knows we're impacting. So that's what the topic is today. I do like to start it out with a bit of a fun thing because we're all remote. Um, what's one of the most surprising or funny things you've ever discovered on a call? Like when you've joined a call and you're with a prospect, what's one of the funniest things? If Shamil, do you have a story?
I mean, it's not funny. It's a little bit scary, but you join a call and it's like no one's ever actually met each other, seen each other, and they've been working together for years. It's like what they're they've been on emails. I work with quite a bit of engineers, and you'd be surprised the level of off-camera engagements that happen with folks, and just seeing each other and like, wait, you're XYZ from this office. I've never like talked to you, but they've collaborated over email for a while. So it's scary, but it's funny. It actually happens, and people have been working together for years and actually never seen each other on a Zoom call.
Wow. That is interesting. I haven't even considered, I've been like on camera for so long now, and a lot of us have gone and either we're back in office or we're hybrid. It's interesting to remember that that's not the case all the time.
Yeah.
How
And
about you?
oh,
Go
God.
ahead. Okay.
And a lot of our customers don't always collaborate the same way that we do in our profession, right? So it's just sometimes they're like, yeah, nope, I send emails, I send Slack messages, and just never really meet.
Wow. Yuji, how about yourself? You're on like with people all over the planet all the time.
Yeah, we are. I was trying to think of what to bring up here, but I was on a discovery call doing a discovery call with somebody that went to my high school, which was very random. Yeah, we talked to people all around the globe, and I ran into somebody that we just talked about the random city I grew up in, and then we found out we go to the same high school. So that was one funny thing I ran into recently.
Wow, I've never done that before. Jessica, how
Yeah.
about yourself?
I think it would have to be joining a call on Halloween, just like any other workday, and everybody you're talking to on the other side is like in full costume, which says a
Oh my
lot
God.
because, a lot of times it's just like the top and some pants, as adults, we don't always go all out, but it was like full fuzzy onesies that they had going on. And yeah, it made me laugh out loud because I was honestly not expecting it, even though I knew it was Halloween. Never crossed my mind that that's who I would be talking to that day.
Next webinar, I'm going to expect all of us to be in onesies.
It's
So,
Yeah.
on unicorn, fuzzy unicorn.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Speaking of unicorns, measuring metrics for SE orgs, you see how I did that, is a bit of a unicorn because a lot of orgs don't do it, or we don't do it right, or we don't know how to. I want to just like this is a big topic. I'm going to sum it way down. If you could only track three metrics in your org, which ones would they be and why? And I'm going to pass it to you, Jessica.
Yeah. I like to get a holistic view of kind of everything that's happening. So while it's technically only three metrics, I think you can go pretty deep with them. The first is SE requests. So, how are SEs being engaged? When are they being engaged? The activity that they're tracking during the sales cycle to kind of see what's happening, how they're impacting it, and then the win rates on the end. So technically three things, but lots of buckets within there if I'm cheating.
No, that's good. That's good. How about you, Yuji?
Yeah, for me it's similar for at least two, and I'll go in a slightly different direction with one. So AR influence and win rate, right? Those are very key because at the end of the day, we need to make sure we're driving real business outcomes and not just supporting activity. The other one that I like to think about and track those employee satisfaction as well as attrition being more of lagging, the satisfaction being more the leading indicator. Because at the end of the day, what we want to do is make sure that we're understanding the cost side of success, right? Success being ARR and growth and win rates, all that, but the cost side of that being potentially burnout, churn, losing strong senior talent. And so that's something that we would want to keep a close eye on, just to make sure that that the team is feeling like they are continuing to grow and set up for success. Um, because at the end of the day, if we're quietly losing some of our best talent and strongest SCs, that's really, I guess, what I consider a delayed failure, or meaning that the success that we're having and the growth we're having isn't necessarily sustainable for the long term. And so I think together, looking at both sides of the equation, right? The top end business outcome metrics there on win rate, and then also looking at how satisfied our team is, and how well equipped they feel like they're able to continue to grow and make a sustainable impact on the organization.
That's cool. I love the way you broke it into two different sides. The quietly failing is like the scariest thing in the world when you you think you see all the activity, but you're
Yeah.
wondering how you're succeeding, and maybe you're just quietly not doing as well as you thought. That's things and nightmares. So, Shamil, what about you, man?
Yeah, so more of the same, actually, except for when it comes to activity, I really want to focus on customer-facing meetings. I've had some really talented solution consultants, solution architects in the past that have been fantastic at coming to a solution without actually getting in front of the customer, or running their own discovery. So relying on notes, relying on all the call recordings. And I love that efficiency there, but great things happen when we actually work with customers and we meet them. We're able to be show up as the equal partner and really establish fantastic relationships. So sometimes I'm looking at the metrics and we're looking at, okay, deal prep sessions, and you see a lot of um, technical consultations, and I'm like, I want to know when you're running discovery, when you're demoing for that customer, and you're actually driving the deal forward. And I want to focus on those two signals, that signal versus saying, okay, great, I love that you're doing a ton of deal prep. I really want to know when you're meeting with the customer. And then just like ARR influence and win rate, ARR influence is actually important. You'd be surprised that Salesforce maintenance isn't always where it needs to be when it comes to tying the SC to the exact opportunity that ends up closing. So it's really important to, if you're tracking that, you can tell when your SCs are not actually aligned to the right deal. They're working the opportunity, they're working the account, but they're not on the connection to the right data is not there. So look at ARR influence and then win rate, of course. Like win rate, we always want to see that up and to the right when SCs are involved.
No, that's epic. And I got a question here from Anmol. Thanks for the question, man. We had dinner in Boston. That was a lot of fun. I hope we do another one. The joke was we were all going to sponsor his wedding, so I hope that went well. The question is, how do you differentiate true like bottom line impact versus sales adjacent and supporting function claiming a piece of the pie? And I think that's where things get a little gray. So any ideas on that, Shamil?
It's really tough. I use the omelet example all the time, right? Like, is it the cheese? Is it the pepper? Is it the seasoning? Like, is it the temperature and the foundation there? You really don't know like uh, what actually wins the deal, but there are key ingredients that solution consultants can own with winning the opportunity. So we should own the technical win. Our technical stakeholders should absolutely understand what were the requirements, the required capabilities, and that we are fulfilling them with our product, and we have agreement that uh, the the solution is the right solution to move forward. So that's where I would put the focus on when you're kind of building teams on the solution side. Like, do we have the technical fit? What's the risk aligned to it? And then making sure that we're reporting that to the rest of the business. And it should be part of when you're performing deal reviews and forecasting. If you're not having solution consultants with their technical fit as part of that lens, you're going to be in a bad spot. But
Mm, especially like with churn risk. I mean,
yeah,
most of us are in SaaS. The whole SaaS business model is built upon NRR, right? Retaining customers. And so if we set them up for success, great. That means we're doing the business a favor. And if not, that 1 year contract is going to come up and they no longer see the value of your tool, you know? Um, I think we've covered, I was interested in like one metric that you fundamentally changed how your team operates. The three of you have covered kind of top things, the top three. Is there one that's been, is there one that's been surprising that you've rolled out that maybe isn't as common that has surprised you or that you hear about being used? Jessica, I'll start with you if you have anything.
Yeah, so I think that activity tracking, a lot of people in the solutions engineering profession don't want to do it, quite frankly. When you think about how like AE activity is tracked in CRMs, you really know like
Yep.
when they're engaging with customers and kind of the entire thread that they've had throughout a deal or opportunity, which allows you to say, if they're doing things the right way. For SEs, I think it's a little bit of a different lens on the same thing where it gives them awareness for where they're spending their time. It's very easy to kind of get sucked into the deals that you're working on, and an enterprise deal cycle may look different from a mid-market versus an SMB. And it's kind of hard to understand if you're prioritizing your time accurately if you don't track the different actions or activities that you're having on each one of those deals. So I find that it's something SEs complain about, leaders like a lot because it gives us kind of the full visibility and transparency. But I have seen positive shifts in the way that teams operate just by having that extra set of data. If they are working on a $20,000 opportunity versus $1 million opportunity, like the level of activity on those should be wildly different. And then you should be able to prove that the activities that they did, back to the question originally, kind of drove the bottom line, because they were involved in discovery and they did a technical deep dive or a workshop that is part of the reason why the deal was successfully closed.
How do you handle the objection? Here's my theory. Like smart people don't like doing tasks that they don't feel are important, right? Smart people don't like boring tasks. how do you deal with the objection within the team when they go, man, I don't want to track activity. Like, do I have to really go in my CRM, check the box, and then, all that stuff? Or do you automate it using AI or tools so that it's easier on them?
Automating it would be great. I
Yeah.
don't think it's always the case. It's not the first iteration. I think once the pain becomes real enough, then, working with your RevOps teams to try to automate it in some capacity. As a leader and somebody who's in a sales organization, I'm always selling. So every time that somebody complains about tracking data in our CRM, without the data, I can't make the business case. And the business case could be a lot of different things. It could be like, hey, we're not being pulled into discovery. And because of that, we're losing deals. Or we call it the vortex of despair at Ashby, where you've been pulled in to do 10 demos when like we already got the technical win. So as a leader, I really need them to track that data, one, for their own self-awareness, but to be able to pull the insights out to make tweaks to the way that we operate and execute in deal cycles.
Yeah, I love that you're always selling internally too. Yeah, a lot, and as an IC, it's hard to remember that. Like your management layer is literally going up to sell you, right? And like the purpose of the org, and like we're the ones trying to fight for budget at the end of the year and President's Club seats and all that kind of stuff. And like all that trickles down into activities tracking a lot of the time. Incredible questions in here too from some heavy hitters like Diana and Katie. Like, kidding me? I mean, I don't know. You guys are incredible. I can't wait to get these answers. Um, one thing I've kind of like, there's leading and lagging indicators, right? And this has a lot to do with measurement because we have to predict success. So I'll throw it over to you, Yuji. What's a leading indicator you found that predicts the success better than lagging? You mentioned earlier, like leading and lagging indicators. Where do you start?
Yeah, for me, it was a lot of it was tracking a couple things. One is SC engagement. Were they getting engaged at the right stage and early enough in the sales cycle? Were they getting engaged in, well qualified deals? One of the things we tracked quite a bit was POC starts with the JEP, or what we call the joint execution plan. We did a lot of selling through POCs, and so that was very key for us. So we look at how many POC starts we would have going into a month or period. And what we consider a POC without a joint execution plan was really just more activity, but a JP with a joint or a POC with a joint execution plan would tell me, right, that both sides, the prospect and our team, were both aligned on success criteria and accountability. And that combination, being able to track that, gave us a very good indication or signal that we would have a high probability of winning that deal. So that's something that we looked at pretty closely.
Nice. And I love the result that often the result is when you attach this SE early on, it actually has a stronger win rate.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
it certainly can.
yeah. The question from Diana I want to address now, and Shamil, I'd love your take on this if you have one. I don't want to put you on the spot, but you've got somebody who's disagreeing with paying spiffs, right? I love maybe I'm just coin operated too, but I love celebrating wins. Like there's nothing better than winning, right? It's why half of us are in this business. um, Paying a like solution consultant spiff for getting tech wins or being a part of that process, they feel like, hey, we're going to pay for one spiff, one deal, one win. What do you think is a strong way to combat that to empower the team?
Velocity of tech win, possibly. Like if you say, hey, if you get to the tech win within a certain period, that
Ooh,
if the deal closes, then it will be spiff eligible. So eligibility versus like you will get paid out guaranteed if you get the tech win. Because the reality, we all know is you can get to the tech win and be a perfect fit, but the stars do not align, right? Businesses are shifting every day. So trying to think about how you can make it holistically fair, very individually focused for your spiff. So not something that a group can do, but can your individual SC excel in that? And is it differentiated enough, or is it just an expectation? That's what's going to power your spiffs. And it has to be
man.
directionally aligned to the business for that year, your OKRs that you have that ladder up to the CRO's objective. So it can't just be like we're closing deals. It has to be we need more adoption of a certain tool. And then you center your spiffs around that. And that's where you're going to get the buy-in from folks above.
I love that, Shamel. Like if I walked away with that one piece of insight, I would feel good about this. So thank you. That is like increasing the velocity, it does increase so many other pieces and parts. And that's going to motivate the SC to like get that POC done first in a way, right? That's cool. Anybody else have a take on that?
think that covers
No.
it.
Yeah.
Another question, this is Katie, it's different than I had imagined, but I think it's very relevant, is tracking the impact of enablement. Oftentimes enablement costs money, time, effort, etc. Larger orgs have enablement teams, smaller ones don't. Tracking impact of enablement is impossible. Maybe it's not impossible, maybe we uncover it now, but I've never had a very good I've never really had a great answer to like how do we affect ARR with enablement? Do you guys have any insight on that?
Yeah, I can go because
Yeah, let's
we're in
hear
a
it.
Yeah, go
world
for it.
of hurt here with the growing team globally. So ultimately, they're kind of using like CSAT scores. As soon as the enablement session runs, they get a quick survey out to the community to pull back feedback. And then also the leadership tied to enablement is going kind of on a tour to go to each function and the leaders in that function and getting raw feedback. But it's really difficult when it comes to sales enablement to say that they're excelling. Um, if you look at if you want to make it data driven, you can look at things like if you have a sales framework or process, is that framework consistently showing up in every deal? So let's say, take Medic.
Mm,
As you look at your opportunities, is Medic filled out for every opportunity that's moving into a certain stage? If you have exit criteria that you're trying to push out tied to going from discovery to like technical engagement and validation, is that exit criteria documented in those opportunities? That's how you take like I delivered a process, I delivered a framework. Um, is it put into practice? And you go to your areas of data to allow you to understand that. And that's how you go from qualitative to actually like, no, they're not learning this because I look at 50% of the org and medic's not filled out completely. So let's go ahead and revisit that. So that's how you can tie data to it, but it's really, really hard, as you mentioned.
yeah. One thing I've done enabling, like we doubled the team at one org I was at and went global, went into new markets like you are right now, Shamil, is and it is tough, but when you do frequent reminders, it's almost like when you roll out a book at SKO and you say this is the methodology we're going to use. We like calendared that week all the check-ins for the year because as a leader, you're like you can forget and you can not bring it up in your one-on-ones and you could stop sort of enforcing it. So we like scheduled out the whole year. Like this is when we're doing the check-ins.
So one thing I'll note too is there's sales enablement and then there's technical enablement surrounding your product, your industry, and the expectation of understanding those workflows. That's a different beast. And I think we'll talk about it later, but it's very much self-driven, and I don't know who solved that well in the market.
Nice, nice. Jessica, I'm going to hand it over to you because like we've talked about, unless you wanted to make a point on that one. I see you're
Actually
kind
do
of ready
it.
for
Yeah.
it.
I think sales enablement can sometimes be set up for failure in the sense that it is their job to enable the masses. I think it would be naive to not acknowledge like the change management required from actual frontline leaders in the business to make sure, like Shamil said, that the teams are doing the things that they're supposed to be doing and staying on top of it. I do think sometimes it's like we rolled this out, set it and forget it type motion versus the constant iteration and reminder that the team should be doing that. And I do think sometimes that could be a gap in, leadership and just them not staying on top of it the way that they should, because there will always be a new process that rolls out or an iteration to your product, right? A new feature, something along those lines. And it can be a lot. So making sure that your team is focused on the right things and that they implement those changes to the things that they're learning.
And you touched on a point that I love, Jessica, which is like there's a lot of change. And by the way, that's what these businesses are built to be in. Like that will never go away. Right. And so like we live in that moment where there is a lot of change all the time and it always will be. And so we have to sort of within that velocity, like meet them where they are and continue to enforce it.
It's not the fun part, but it is a necessary part of leadership.
I'm glad I'm not the only one because it's never been my like strong suit. Um, we've we've mentioned like a lot of terms just now, and we've used some acronyms. I think most people here are following, no problem. But I kind of want to walk away from the like stuff we measure to some of the things we actually care about within our teams. Sometimes those are perfectly aligned. Hopefully, that's like best case scenario. Oftentimes, there's some things we care about that we're not actually measuring, or at the end of the day, we have our numbers, but we also want to drive a certain type of culture. So Jessica, I'd love to hear for you, like where does that gap exist and what are some of the things you actually care about?
Yeah. As a manager, again, just deeply care about my team and their, level of satisfaction in the role. Do they have processes and things around them that make them successful in ways that we can support them? I'm also a big believer in like raising all tides. I have a high expectation. I care a lot about people on my team contributing to the greater good of the rest of the team. If they learn something new or they figure something out or they read something that would be useful to others, disseminating that information so that way everyone can just be the best version of themselves when they're in deals versus everybody kind of struggling to figure out the same things along the way. And I kind of put all of that into like a level of effort, the inputs that they put into being a good SE versus the outputs, which obviously display and win rates and stuff like that, but just their own learning, growth, development, the way that they partner, a lot of kind of those softer things that I think are really important, and the way that we try to drive culture around those to make them better.
You're about to double your team. Is there how do you you're going to have to enable a lot and you're going to have to drive that culture with some incredible candidates, right? What's your plan? Like how do you check in on that like from a tactical perspective?
Yeah, I try to set the tone and the expectation early. With new people coming on, I think it's really important again to just set them up for success. Like the 30, maybe it's a little bit rigid, but in the full transparency of like we have a 30, 60, 90 day, 180 day of expectations pretty much laid out. And in there, it's not just like winning deals. It is kind of all of these things like being a product expert and understanding how we speak with our customers and add value to sales cycles, and then, a bullet point in there is also like being a resource to the rest of the team, just so that way they know that like it is an expectation of the role and it's not like a surprise to them at any point. So I think clear expectations from the time that they start are important. And then just lots of opportunities to kind of see that behavior from other people on the team. So we do a call club where somebody like puts in a demo that they've done recently and everybody can give peer feedback to like, so that way it's not just a manager. I can't take credit for that. Travis O'Connor, fantastic SE of mine at Asana, was the one who brought it to me. And I think it came to him from Sales Loft. But just like a book club, right? Kind of like everyone together talking about best practices, the way that they would approach things, and being ultra collaborative. And then we also have knowledge sharing sessions for like, what's your demo best practices, or like something that you've been doing in calls that customers really love, or hey, we're focused on this new thing. How can we all learn that together? So I do try to bring the team together intentionally to work on some of those kind of softer skills and build that culture of just helping and enabling each other. Like Shamil said, there's a level of technical enablement or self-enablement that has to happen within the team that we're not going to get from somewhere else. So how can you make everyone aware of that and try to, yeah, raise the bar?
Yeah, I love that idea. Um, Diana asks, how often do you do those?
We do them monthly. So
Monthly.
one or two SEs on the team will submit a call, and then we'll split it up and have three SEs give them feedback, and then we'll all come back together as a larger group just to talk about like themes or things that we saw in the calls.
That's so cool. Yeah, I think a handful of us are going to start to adopt that. Um, Yuji, you see great examples across many, many orgs. Do you have anything that's interesting to share there?
As far as enablement or collaboration, or
Yeah, enablement, collaboration too. I mean, I think we just stepped into that zone with that
yeah.
amazing example, Jessica. But um, do you have any interesting things people are doing you've picked up along the way?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we used to do, and I think other teams do, are surveys. We survey our
Cool.
AEs. We used to do a lot of one-on-ones with AEs when we were smaller, but as we grew and scaled, it was hard to do that. So,
Hmm.
serving the AEs to get input across how our team is partnering with them, is collaborating with them. and doing that also with other teams too. So as we work closely with customer success, right, on expansions and things, renewals and things like that, if that was important to us, we would also try to understand how, from that team's perspective, right, also working alongside the managers and aligning with them, but down to like the CSM and the ProServe consultant and the AE, what each individual would think of, how we were partnering with those different individuals and those teams as a whole really helped. I thought we did that every 6 months, so twice a year, and it was very insightful. A lot of it was, anecdotal, but it was very insightful as far as things where we could potentially do better or partner and collaborate with other teams better. And so that's one of the big things that we would do, and I see other teams doing as well.
I would love to hear. I want to go into AI because I mean, at this point, AI is not like it's just synonymous with software, right? It's just what we use all day.
Yeah.
It's like talking about computers, but I do want to start kind of like specifically talk about AI in a way because using these tools that integrate with call recordings, with your CRM, with others, you can grab so many of your insights, Gong and other, Zoom, and um, I'm using it a ton. And we're doing a sales kickoff this week, and we're like, man, it's amazing to be AI native and AI first. What kind of tools are you using to collect insights? Give us some workflows that you have figured out to help everybody else who's listening. Um, Collecting insights, making sense of the insights, maybe making them actionable. Shamil, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so critical workflow for us actually. We released it's really cool like add-on to Figma. It's called like Governance Plus. It's very much focused for those regulated industries and folks who have more concerns surrounding their intellectual property and being able to maybe degrade the experience of Figma from a usability perspective, but have that level of control that they need as a large enterprise. And discovery for that's kind of difficult, right? Like you're talking to designers, you're talking to these creatives and trying to dig into their security needs. So
Hmm.
what we did is we worked with our questionnaire vendor, and we gave them the value prop of our Governance Plus solution, and they actually did this deep dive on all the questionnaires that they've collected over the years for us, and were able to give us a hit list of like potential customers that we can target this new product for, and then we took that, we ran a education or enablement to the sales org, and we ended up with a lot of opportunity created tied to that Governance Plus product. And previously, like not having AI, that would have been such an incredibly difficult effort to like cross correlate a series of like 300 questions from a customer to functionality that we have in a product. It would be near impossible. So that was actually a huge advantage for us, and it was led by myself and my other solutions partner, Colin Trent, um, who's now going to lead our strat team for solutions. So again, the data's there. It's been there. Now you got to put it to use, and hopefully in a way that benefits and influences ARR for your organization.
Yeah, yeah, well said. What about you, Jessica?
I've been very into Gong's AI tools lately. There are a couple of specific things that I think they're really valuable for. So we've talked about kind of like making the team better. As a manager, do I want to be watching calls all day and like scoring my team and giving them coaching tips? Absolutely. Do I have the bandwidth to do that? No. So the AI scorecards, right? Like kind of giving them the criteria that I'm looking for in any call and giving SEs the ability to run those scorecards themselves to say like where did they do good on discovery? Did they meet the points of the customer? Did they have a cohesive demo flow? So giving it essentially the prompt that I would score on and having it come back with automated feedback for them, I find to be really valuable. And the team again uses that. Our AEs even use it. We're trying to get them deeper into discovery. So they have an automated one every time they do a discovery call, a scorecard comes back, just so that way, talked about sales enablement, kind of like keeping that top of mind for them as they are working on that skill set. And then we just launched our subject matter expertise program for closer alignment between SEs and product managers. And each SE owns a product area. It's very hard, kind of just Shamil's example, to correlate data across that entire product area. So Gong has a new feature, Theme Spotter, where you can essentially set up a tracker for conversations that contain that product, any sort of feedback that came back, or things that would be relevant, and then giving that as a readout to the SE when they go into those meetings with PMs, just to have an informed perspective on like what customers are saying about it versus what we're hearing and feeling, and then where the product direction's actually going, just to keep that collaboration really tight knit and kind of close the loop between development and implementation with customers.
Oh, that's epic. Yuji, your turn.
Yeah, I think a lot of the same, right? I haven't used Gong's latest, but we do a lot of that actually with our SC and AE coaching clients that we work with. We use AI to score their demos or their mock discoveries that they do. And that's been very helpful because it just allows us to make sure that they can also, self-evaluate themselves really quickly through using the AI, but also we can take a look across all the criteria that we typically would evaluate a good demo based on or a good discovery call based on. It's something I certainly wanted to do when I was leading team back then, but didn't have the capability. But now it's nice to be able to do that. So that's what we lean on pretty heavily.
Nice, nice. Um, Alexis has I wanted to say Alex, I'm sorry, has a really great comment in here, which was one thing that helped the newer SCs is tasking them with building their own AI call coaching bot and asking them to run calls through it, 3 calls a week through the bot and bring their feedback into their one-on-one.
Mm.
Um, Last night we may or may not have had too much fun creating our own bots and trying to trying to land cold calling with the AEs on the team. And it's a lot of fun. It's also like pretty good team building because it's awkward and you can build some of the bots to be very aggressive. But you use your ICP and I learned a ton from doing it too. That was kind of fun.
Yeah, we use AI bots heavily for coaching practice with discovery calls and demos and interviewing as well.
I saw that too. You use it for interviews, right, Yuji? Like you
Yeah,
could run through an interview and practice. I think that's cool.
yeah. And doing like mock discoveries, yeah, as well. It's very, very useful to get reps in, get a lot of extra reps in that you don't necessarily have time as a manager or as a coach to do.
Wow. Sky's the limit. Are you guys using this to measure the quality of discovery and demo delivery? Because I know that we kind of touched on this, but like one of the hardest things I have had to do is, you sit in on calls, and then we started watching Gong reviews and getting insights there. Are you bringing these metrics or discovery like AI readouts to your one-on-ones? Shamil, are you using that?
No. So yes and no, I should say. So we don't have the luxury of Gong. I think we would, but we have Chorus from Zoom
Cool.
Info. So we do bring back transcripts and we have a quick summary. But I am very much a fan of like getting in there and doing the 1.5 speed and just kind of like listening to the call to look for areas. Like I love what AI can do, but you don't want to take a summary to coach. At the end of the day, you want to get in there. You want to understand how they acted. You want to take clips and say like, hey, like on this clip, you did a fantastic job, but you could have gone to a second level, a third level of discovery surrounding this. They almost were talking about their colleagues. You didn't say who, like what department are they from, what's their workflow, like. So I'm always a fan of like, yeah, read through the summary and let that be the guiding light to finding the time you're going to spend to actually review the call and help coach your ICs.
To that point, Shamil, we've got to find a balance between like individual IC performance metrics and team or pod level outcomes. And that's a big thing the business has really just insight into how the whole team is doing, right? What do you think matters more? Is there one that matters more than the other, or how do you balance that, Shamil?
Well, if you're talking CRO, revenue matters the most, right? So what are the
Yeah.
outcomes? How does it influence revenue? But it doesn't help anyone if they have a fantastic selling relationship and the customer is just really eager and energized about your product and they're just going to buy more. And the quality of their craft and how they operate. So there has to be a balance where, if you're getting the right outcomes, you can't just assume everything's happening well because you're hitting individual metrics accurately, right? Cool, you've hit your technical discoveries for the quarter. You've hit your appropriate number of demos. You've hit your number of customer-facing meetings. Yeah, we're excited you hit those metrics, but if we don't lean in as leaders and understand the quality that's being delivered, we're not helping anyone get better. And my lead, Shawnee Taylor, she always says, uh, Simone Biles has a coach. The best gymnast ever, sorry, fight me,
Hot
has a coach, right?
take.
And if you have your most talented SCs and your principals and your SMEs, your overlays, and you're not coaching them, you're failing despite hitting numbers and outcomes. So there's always an opportunity to like look at the good signals and say, yeah, we're getting these great outcomes. That's fantastic for the business, but it's your job as a leader to lean in and really look for opportunities of growth across your team, despite how talented they are.
Yeah, that's a very good line, Shamil. Simone Biles has a coach, because I know I've also managed a lot of senior teams, and a lot of the time they know what they're doing, and it's hard to coach. It's almost harder, right? Because principal level engineers are like, "Hey, I've been here forever. I
Uh,
do this.
and you get,
You don't need to give me that feedback, or I'm not going to change. I don't need that tool, you know?"
I wish I can claim the line, but it was totally Shawnee Taylor.
All right, Shawnee, got to connect. Jessica, any insight there?
Yeah, I'd agree. Like in the team metrics and the individual metrics are very important. Like when you think about balancing them, it's great that your team as a whole is seen as strategic within the organization, but as a manager, like focusing on the individual pieces of what makes that team so strong and good at their craft. You can see that I lean like heavily on coaching, but if somebody is the Tiger Woods of discovery, like how can we disseminate that information to other people to get them to that same level? So I do think that even if the team is doing as well and hitting the targets, there's always things that you can be doing to develop the individuals to make them better. And the team performance obviously reflects that.
Yeah, that's two Tiger Wood mentions. Ross mentioned that in the chat too.
Yep, took it out of the chat.
We can agree the GOAT even needs the coach. How about you, Yuji? Sorry, you just
Um,
drinking your coffee. Wrong
no,
timing.
you're good. Yeah, no, you're good. Yeah, I mean, tracking both. I mean, I don't know if I have much to add here, but I think tracking both is important. Certainly, as far as how we comp folks, right, was at the team number level. So that was always very important. And then, but also tracking their individual contributions, right, as far as ARR, influence, logos. We had a leaderboard for individuals as well, so that they still had a target and had visibility into what they would individually contribute. And that would help us aim to avoid like a hero culture necessarily, but while also
Mm.
maintaining individual accountability, which was important. And then it allowed us to also provide uh, extra compensation for outlier performance. If people were really individual SCs were really going above and beyond. They were being comped on a team number, of course, but if they're really, really exceptional performance, then we would be able to provide them with spot bonuses or use that as an input into a promotion to the next level or something like that. So yeah, tracking both is important.
Yeah, that's where my mind goes to, Yuji. I'm like, okay, I want to spiff the high performers and spot bonus, etc. One thing I did before too is I created these, like, think of them as like tiger teams. I think it's
Yeah.
important for people to have like main title and then subtitle, and you can kind of play around with the subtitle without having to go through HR and without having to go through your career model framework. So one thing I did is I would create these specific teams, and one of them was the office of the CISO. And we would create, it was free. It's free for us to do, but we took our most
Mm.
technical security focused SEs, gave them this subtitle, let them meet with the CTO once a month, and the CTO loved it because they were getting those direct level insights from the field. Um, it's a little off topic, but it just what you said, you reminded me of that, and I was proud of it because it really drove a lot of good culture on the team.
Yeah, I like that.
Um, So, let's talk about defense and we'll wrap it up. Because a lot of the time, and not always, and maybe because the market's shifting, we're getting out of defense modes and somewhat, but a lot of the time we have to defend our SE team's value. Let's just put it out there, right? We have to use data. And oftentimes we're asking our ICs to go in and log activity, and it is like asking them to do work. Um, Tell us about a time you had to do this and what story or the metrics really won. And Jessica, I'll send it over to you.
I think most of the time I've had very collaborative sales leaders who understood the value of their solutions engineers. But
Mm.
as business partners, you obviously want to sing the value that your team is having. So in terms of defending them or like a key thing to anchor around, I think a big one is just a lift in ARR. So the benefit of having SEs attached to deals, as Shamil said, it's important. Sometimes the CRM gets it wrong, close an opportunity, open an opportunity. But being able to look holistically at the size of a deal when it closes that has a SE attached versus the average without SEs attached. So from that, you can kind of derive like the lift in ARR that happens when SEs are involved in deals. I'm also a fan of just like data tells the story that you want it to tell, like
Yeah.
from a leader to leader perspective. So
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of ways to architect this and make a business proposition for your team. Another fan favorite of mine is just deal buckets. So like some AEs can rock a deal on their own under $20,000. They'll win it every time. They don't need any SE support. So I love looking at win rates for like individual AEs in specific deal buckets versus SEs in those same deal buckets and kind of find that tipping point for where, okay, we absolutely need SEs in deals that are above $50,000 because they have significantly higher win rates than the AEs do when they go it alone.
That is absolutely fire, Jessica. Like the deal buckets is, I've never used that before, and now I regret it because that point is so spot on. You can look at high velocity sales models and think, oh no, it's full cycle AE, but like they're not really bringing in the top clients without huge amounts of SE insight. That's cool. How about you, Shamil?
Yeah, so absolutely lifting ARR. But the new like bag is like adoption of like workflows,
Yeah.
right? So
Mm.
um telling the story of like, hey, look at the numbers, they're fantastic. Anytime an SE is involved, there's like a multiplier in terms of initial spend. But then looking at long-term net dollar retention tied to when an SE is involved versus like we get a great deal and we see this drop off a cliff because no one has learned to adapt or change the way they're working with the tool that you sold them. So that's what you anchor on because that's what the CFO will turn around in this new world of like either consumption-based models that are rolling out or uh, essentially like renewals. That's
Yeah.
what they're going to be thrilled about because that protects the bottom line.
Now, I have a follow-up question for you, Shmil, because often we don't understand the level of adoption until they've onboarded and they've been a customer for a while, right? It's my tendency to think that my team knows how to do this best, maybe. But my thought is you get an SE in there, right? Maybe you send an SE on site, you do a training, you take the SE team and you say, look, like, give them examples of what good looks like. How do you manage going in and increasing adoption when it's post sales and your team is still focused on net new opportunities?
Yeah, that's where you have to split the team at some point.
Mm,
You do at some point you cross this chasm of capacity management where you have to determine is it better to go hunt or is it better to go grow and nurture? And like a business approaches that at some point where they're like, no, we have introduced new product sets. We no longer have a baked-in champion, and we're trying to expand our TAM in a different direction. You have to go nurture, and that's when you need people behind it. That's where you start seeing like forward deployed engineers, TAMs, applied AI is a new trigger there. But you do have to balance it. So take what's repeatable in your POVs and then try and build a scale to that on the post-sale side because you already figured out how to like have that wow moment of value in your POV or POC or whatever you want to call it, your evaluation. Um, Scale that. Like make sure you say that, okay, we have a starting point because we know what excites people. How do you scale that against different personas, different teams? And then build a program. So you will have a baseline of like playbooks that you can have like your post-sales team look at and then ebb and flow based on the custom needs of the customer. But I think at some point you just have to you got to split the roles. Like most early stage startups, no, you're our people. Like, let's go.
yeah.
But at some point you got to invest in the right way.
I mean, as the founding SE at Figma, I would believe you, Shamil. Because, it's a small company that grew. It's an incredible story, and you've had to live it. Yuji, What you got?
Yeah, I don't know if I have much
Right.
to add there. I
Yeah.
think, yeah, I think these guys covered a lot. It was good.
It's hard to follow these two.
Yeah.
I know. I've got one last question, and it's about quota carrying SEs. We've talked a lot. I think the four of us here are true believers of like the solution engineer, the technical seller being somebody who's directly tied to ARR, directly tied to revenue. We know the game. We've had to work to increase these things. When does it make sense, or if does it make sense for an SE to have their own quota, not just a target? I'll hand it over to you, Yuji, because you're really on top of the market here.
Yeah, I think it depends, right? I think individual commission plans, individual quotas can make a lot of sense for highly complex, high value sales with tight SC to AE ratios. So where you're 1 to 1, 1 to 2, something like that. I think that's where it makes a lot of sense. And that's often where we see individual commission plans for SCs because we want the SCs compensation to be fairly aligned to the AEs because they're doing, they're basically in it with them for a 12 to 18-month deal cycle sometimes, and we want them to get that same upside potential that the AE has, or similar at least. Where more of a team-based structure makes sense is higher ratios, pooled models, lower segments, typically more transactional sales where it makes the most sense. And or also when you're potentially in high growth mode and you just want to really incentivize collaboration across the team. But you can also do both, right? I think that's something that we did was focus on a team model and comped on team, but also allowed for spot bonuses for that outlier SC that really crushed it in 1 quarter so they could still be recognized and rewarded for their overperformance.
I love that. Jessica, do you play around with this at all at Ashby? I don't know.
I probably have a hot take,
Let's
previously as an SE and now as an SE leader, which is mostly just that people who want to carry the bag go into sales. I think a lot of times people who have that selling persona and skill set, but they don't want to take the risk of, having half of their compensation be tied to a number. I think that solutions engineering is a good, awesome career, safe choice. And I've definitely had SEs who kind of wanted to hold the bag and have gone over to sales roles and been wildly successful because they were more technical and could kind of do the end-to-end sales cycle. But I do find that, in most companies and the models that we've set up for solutions engineers, that they are like a technical support system, trusted advisor, partner to the AE. And while it's again a hot take, AE's neck is on the line for delivering the deal and their compensation reflects that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
AE's in charge of the revenue, right?
Yep,
it's a different risk reward profile, right? That's what it is.
exactly.
Well, this has been incredible. Shamil, any parting words of guidance?
Um, as you move up and as you start building teams and as you get more and more opportunities to craft like the future and what tomorrow is in the world of solutions, never lose your craft. Never like get away from like the experience, the practitioner lens, getting into the trenches. Um, if you're able to vibe and have empathy for what SEs have to do, they'll respect you more. So never get away from the craft.
I love that. Anything else to add, Jessica or Yuji? Just open up the floor for you.
I think we
Mm.
said it, but data tells the story that you want to tell. So this whole thing was about metrics. I did
Yeah,
an interview for a frontline manager yesterday, and again, it's all just about crafting the narrative. So you can always find something to support the story. Just dig deep.
love that.
Nothing
Yuji,
to ask me. I think these guys got it covered.
just connect with Yuji on LinkedIn. That's what we're
Yeah, there
adding.
you go. Yeah,
Look,
reach
I
out.
mean, here's the call to action I have for everybody who's joined or everybody who's watched the recording. It's amazing how long these things live on. If this conversation has sparked something for you, whether it's additional curiosity, inspiration, or a reminder of why we do this crazy, wonderful profession we're in, I'd love to hear about it. Jessica would love to hear about it. Yuji would love to hear about it. Shamil would love to hear about it. We have events going on all over the country, even the world, through multiple people on this call as well. Keep an eye out for those things. When you get an invite, don't be shy. Please lean in. It's so much fun to connect with people in real life, and it's so meaningful. And Having done this a couple of years, I've turned what was professional networking into like real deep friendships, people I can count on. And I just highly encourage everyone here to do that. Um, Connect with me on LinkedIn, connect with everyone else, share this recording. Please spread the word. Until next time, keep solving, keep growing with us. Thank you so much for your time. Take care.